My name is Daniel Cross. I'm 41 years old, and on March 14th, 2020, I died in a train derailment. I grew up in the small town of Fairbrook, surrounded by cornfields and quiet streets. My father was a mechanic who could fix anything with an engine, and my mother was a nurse who seemed to carry the whole town's pain on her shoulders. I inherited pieces of both of them. My father's problem-solving, my mother's compassion, though I never thought I'd need either skill beyond daily life. For years, my world revolved around my wife, Anna, and our son, Caleb. We weren't wealthy, but our home was full of laughter, homemade meals, and evenings spent on the porch watching the sun dip behind the trees. I worked as a structural engineer for the state rail system, a job that kept me busy but gave me the satisfaction of knowing people could travel safely because of what I built. The morning of March 14th started ordinary enough. I was boarding the northbound train to inspect a bridge just outside the city. It was early, the kind of morning where the frost still clung to the windows. Passengers murmured quietly, clutching coffee cups, scrolling through their phones. I remember sitting near the middle of the carriage, reviewing blueprints on my tablet. The rhythmic clatter of the tracks was almost hypnotic. Then came the sound, a deep metallic groan, like the rails themselves were in pain. People looked up. Another sound followed, a sharp crack, then a jolt so sudden it felt like the floor had been yanked out from under us. The train lurched violently to the left. Coffee splashed, luggage fell from overhead racks. A woman screamed. I clutched the seat in front of me, my heart pounding, but the motion didn't stop, it worsened. The screech of metal against metal roared in my ears. Then the world tilted completely sideways. Glass shattered. Seats tore loose. The carriage flipped, tossing bodies and bags in a chaos of limbs and debris. I was thrown hard against the wall, now the floor, and the wind was knocked out of me. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear the earth tearing apart as the train left the rails. We hit something solid. The impact was a bone-rattling thunder. Then silence. It lasted for only a second. The groans of twisted steel were replaced by cries for help, coughing, the hiss of leaking steam. Smoke began to fill the air. My vision blurred, my head pounding. I tried to move, but my leg was pinned under a section of collapsed seat. Through the haze, I saw a young man in the aisle pulling people free. A mother was frantically searching for her child. I wanted to help, but my body refused to obey. That's when I noticed the heat, sharp and growing, licking closer from the mangled front of the carriage. Someone shouted, "It's going to blow." I tried again to free myself, the metal biting into my leg. My breath came fast, shallow. The smoke thickened. Somewhere beyond the panic and noise, my mind began to drift. The pain dulled, replaced by a strange, almost gentle pull, like an unseen current was drawing me away from the wreckage. And then, everything slowed. The smoke froze mid-swirl. The cries became distant echoes. The weight on my leg no longer mattered. I realized, with startling clarity, that I was looking down at myself. I saw my body, still trapped, eyes half open, and the scene around it. The rescuers, the fire creeping forward, the chaos. But I was apart from it all. There was no fear, only a quiet stillness. And somewhere far ahead, beyond the broken train and twisted rails, I saw the faintest glimmer of light. I didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. For a breathless moment, I hovered above the scene like a witness who had stepped outside of time. The carriage lay on its side in a patchwork of bent metal and fractured glass, sunlight spilling through torn seams like ribbons. I could see faces, some still, some moving. I could see a young man bracing his shoulder against a jammed door. I could see the orange wink of a control panel sparking in short, impatient bursts. Yet what struck me most was the calm that settled over everything, as if noise had been turned down to a soft hush. I knew the layout of this train better than most, its weight, its tolerances, the way stress traveled through the frame. Yet all that knowledge felt small compared to the steady pull drawing me away from the rails and toward a brightness I could not explain. I thought of Anna tying her hair into a quick knot while packing Caleb's lunch, of the way our son's brow furrowed when he solved a math problem, of the scar on my left knuckle from tightening a stubborn bolt on a wooden swing I'd promised to finish before the first snow. Memory did not arrive as pictures on a screen. It moved like weather through the center of me, warm fronts of joy and cooler currents of regret. each gust reminding me that love had been the true architecture of my life. I felt grateful for ordinary things I had rarely paused to name. Fresh coffee, a favorite hymn, the soft thud of books in Caleb's backpack, grateful in a way that surprised me with its depth. The brightness ahead widened, not like a lamp, not like the sun, but like a door that knew my name. I drifted toward it with no effort, the way a seed glides on a current. Around me, colors softened, edges lost their sharpness. The air, or what passed for air, seemed to hum with a tone that was less a sound than a welcome. I wanted to understand, to classify, to take mental notes the way an engineer always does, but analysis didn't fit here. Truth arrived as recognition, not equation. I understood that I was safe. I understood that what I was had not ended. There was a border of sorts, a veil as thin as breath, where the world I'd known grayed into a realm of clarity. On one side lay rails and tools and deadlines. On the other, a field that felt endless and close at the same time. I did not step. I simply belonged. The moment I crossed that veil, weight left me. Not just the weight of a body, but the heavier kind. The unresolved words, the quiet worries about bills and deadlines, the unspoken apologies I owed. They did not accuse me here. They loosened, as if each knot had been waiting for warm hands to untie it. I sensed motion without wind. Shapes stirred like gentle tides. Not people exactly, and yet not unlike them. Presences that carried kindness the way a tree carries shade. Far off, I heard what might have been singing, though there were no lyrics. Only a tone that braided peace and hope together. I wanted to find its source, but the same gentle pull guided me elsewhere, to a place where light pooled like water and time seemed to rest. In that quiet, understanding rose. I saw how my days connected, how choices I had thought private had reached farther than I knew. A late-night email that reduced a colleague's stress. A harsh word I could have softened. The afternoon I decided to leave work early to catch Caleb's recital, and the look on his face when he glimpsed me in the second row. Nothing had been small. Every act had weight, not like burden, but like meaning. I realized how many times love had stood patiently at my shoulder while I hurried past toward tasks that would never love me back. I also saw mercy woven through events I had once framed as luck. The internship that arrived after 3 rejections, the roadside stranger who stopped to help fix a tire in a winter storm, the doctor who stayed late to explain a test result until my mother stopped worrying. Threads I never noticed formed a pattern simple and bright. I had been carried more than I knew. Gratitude welled up again, vast and tender. If tears existed here, I would have wept them. At the edge of the light, I perceived a path, not a road exactly, but a rightness, as if goodness itself had drawn a clean line forward. I sensed that if I followed it, I would learn what my heart had been straining to hear since boyhood, the question behind all questions. What is the purpose beneath our ordinary days? I did not feel forced. I felt invited. And with that invitation came a certainty that I was not walking toward emptiness, but toward someone. Before I moved, a last flicker of earthly thought surfaced. Had I finished enough? Had I said all that needed saying to Anna and Caleb? The thought did not sting. It simply reminded me that promises matter and that attention is the truest gift we give. The light answered that worry without words, like a hand over a restless heart. Peace settled again, deeper than before. I turned, if turning is what spirits do, and faced the radiance fully. It brightened in response, as though joy itself were glad I had chosen it. A warmth ran through me that felt like recognition arriving before sight. The way you know a friend by the cadence of their steps even before you see their face. The field of light gathered itself into a horizon I somehow understood would soon approach like a dawn. And in that widening glow, a presence began to draw near. I did not yet see his face, but everything within me rose as if to meet a long-awaited friend. The air trembled, not with fear, but with a reverence that felt as natural as breathing. The path held steady, the welcome deepened, and I knew, without question, that the next moment would change everything I thought I knew about love, truth, and the reason we are given breath. I moved forward. The glow ahead deepened until it was more than light. It was presence. I didn't see it approach so much as realize it had been there all along, waiting for my eyes to notice. My steps felt effortless, as if the ground itself welcomed me. The air hummed with a quiet tone, and though no words were spoken, it was as if I was hearing my name in a language my heart had always known. Then I saw him. Not a figure I needed to guess at. I knew instantly. This was the one who had walked with me through every joy and every shadow. The one whose love I had felt in fleeting moments but never fully understood. His gaze was steady, full of strength and gentleness all at once. "Come," he said, and the word carried both invitation and command. I stepped forward, and with each step, scenes from my life appeared, not in order, but like rivers merging. I saw my childhood, the laughter and the loneliness, my proudest choices and my quietest regrets. They were more than memories. I felt them, and I felt the hearts of the people in them. There was no condemnation, only clarity. "You've measured yourself by the wrong standards," he told me. "I've seen every thread of your life, and I've never let go." Suddenly we stood on a height above the earth, time unfolding below like a living map. Nations rose and fell, oceans shifted, seasons passed. It wasn't chaos, it was orchestration. I understood that every kindness, every sacrifice, was part of a greater pattern I'd never seen. He showed me my life as threads in a vast tapestry. Some glowed bright gold, others were dark and frayed. Yet all of them were woven into something beautiful. "You see only the knots," he said, "but I see the whole design." I thought of the times I had chosen fear over love, silence over truth. Those moments hurt to see, yet even they were redeemed here, part of the pattern. His presence made it clear. I was not here to escape my past, but to become who I was meant to be. The field of light seemed to breathe, as if it were alive, welcoming me deeper. Around us, the horizon had no edge, only an endless expanse where peace seemed to stretch forever. I could feel the warmth of his presence not just around me, but inside me, filling places I hadn't realized were empty. He raised his hand slightly, and the world shifted again. Now we stood among people, countless souls, though they didn't move or speak as we do. Their presence felt like chords in a great harmony. Some were familiar, others I didn't recognize, yet they stirred something within me, as if we'd always been connected. "These are those whose lives touched yours," he explained. "Some you knew, some you never met. But every act of love, even the smallest, has a reach you cannot measure." Scenes bloomed around us. I saw a moment years ago when I stopped to help a stranger whose car had broken down. I'd thought nothing of it, but here, I saw how that kindness rippled into their life. A change in their day, a softened heart toward someone else. That person's act of kindness touched another, and another, until the chain reached far beyond what I could have imagined. Then he showed me the other side, moments when I withheld kindness, when I let bitterness speak louder than compassion. I saw the weight those choices carried too. The truth didn't crush me, it humbled me. "You were created to love," he said. "Not just those who are easy to love, but all who cross your path." I wanted to promise I would, but before I could speak, he looked at me with a knowing smile. "It is not about trying harder," he said gently. "It is about letting my love flow through you. On your own, you can only give so much. In me, there is no limit." His words didn't feel like instruction, they felt like freedom. The light grew warmer, and I sensed that he was leading me towards something deeper, a truth I had never dared to ask for. And though I didn't know what awaited, I wanted nothing more than to follow. We walked without walking, moving deeper into the brilliance. The sense of time dissolved. There was no rush, yet every moment felt perfectly placed. Ahead, the light took on a golden hue, and within it I began to see shapes, not physical, but more real than anything in the world I'd left. He stopped and gestured toward what looked like waves of light rolling across the earth far below us. In some places, the glow was strong and bright, spreading outward like a sunrise. In others, there was shadow, heavy and unmoving. "These are the hearts of humanity," he said. "Where love and truth are embraced, the light grows. Where fear and pride rule, shadows remain." I watched as small points of light began to connect, like tiny stars forming constellations. Each connection seemed to weaken the shadow around it. I felt the truth of it in my very being. Love shared was not just an emotion, it was a force. "Every act of grace is a spark," he continued. "Every word of truth spoken in compassion, every hand that lifts another. These are threads in the great work." The smallest spark can push back a vast darkness. I looked closer and recognized some of the bright points. People I knew, Anna, Caleb, even strangers whose names I'd never learned, each radiating light that touched others in ways I hadn't seen before. "Why show me this?" I asked quietly. His gaze met mine, steady and knowing. "Because you have believed your life was small, when in truth, every life is part of a story beyond imagining. You needed to see the weight of your choices, the reach of your love, the reality of eternity." The words sank deep. I understood now, not in my head, but in the core of who I was, that nothing done in love was ever wasted. Even what seemed forgotten had been gathered into something far greater than I could comprehend. The horizon of light ahead seemed to beckon, and I knew he would lead me still further before my journey was complete. The light around us shifted, parting to reveal the earth below. Mountains, rivers, and cities lay bathed in soft radiance. Yet across some places, a shadow moved like a living fog. "This is not fate," he said. "It grows where hearts close to love and truth. But even here, light can win." He touched my shoulder, and suddenly I saw people in ordinary moments. A man offering food to a stranger, a woman forgiving when she had every reason not to, a child whispering a prayer. Each act sent out ripples of light, weakening the darkness around it. "Every act of love matters," he said, "even the smallest. You may not see its reach now, but here, nothing is hidden." I felt the truth settle deep within me. Life's real battles weren't fought on grand stages, but in quiet, unseen decisions made every day. Then he looked at me, his voice firm but gentle. "You will return. Tell them this. Nothing done in love is wasted, and nothing withheld in fear is forgotten. The time is short, but the light is greater than the darkness." Before I could answer, the vision began to fade into a brilliance so pure it felt alive. I knew he was about to show me something beyond all I had yet seen. The brilliance expanded until it seemed I was standing inside the heart of light itself. There was no horizon now, no separation between where I ended and it began. It felt as though I was being filled, every corner of my being saturated with peace, purpose, and a love so complete it left no room for fear. He was still beside me, yet closer than before, as if every breath I took came from him. His eyes held both eternity and the deepest personal knowing, the kind that sees every fault yet calls you beloved. "You have seen what is," he said softly, "but there is more. There is what will be." In an instant, I saw a world renewed, no shadow, no pain. Every tear gone, every wound healed. People walked in joy, light streaming from their faces. It was not a dream or a hope. It was reality, waiting to come. The sight stirred something fierce within me, a longing so strong I thought I could not leave it. But then his hand rested on my shoulder. "Not yet. You are to carry what you've seen back with you. Speak it plainly. Tell them I am coming, and that the way to be ready is love, the love that comes from me." I wanted to protest, to ask to stay in this place forever, but the light began to shift. I felt a gentle pull, not forward now, but back toward the world I had left. The warmth of his presence did not fade, but the vision around me thinned, like dawn light slipping through mist. I realized the next moment I opened my eyes, I would no longer be here. The pull grew stronger until it felt as though the light itself was carrying me. The field, the horizon, the presence, all began to dissolve into a brightness that pressed against my eyes. For a heartbeat, I thought I would be lost in it forever. Then came the shift. Weight returned, sound returned, the slow ache of a body re-entering itself. My eyes opened to a blur of movement. Shapes became people, paramedics kneeling over me, their gloves slick with sweat and effort. The cold air hit my skin, and the sting of smoke seared my throat. A firm voice called out, "We've got a pulse." Another voice, trembling, repeated, "He's breathing." I coughed, each breath jagged but real. My heart pounded like a drum in my chest, and every beat was a miracle. I could still feel the echo of the place I'd been, as though part of me still stood in that light. The paramedics spoke to each other in quick bursts, but their words blurred into the background. I wasn't focused on them. I was focused on the truth burning in my mind, the words he had spoken to me. I knew I didn't have the strength for long explanations, and I didn't need them. The message wasn't complicated, it was urgent. I turned my head slightly toward the nearest face. I think it was one of the rescue workers, and with the little air I could spare, I spoke. I saw him, and he said this: "Love is the only thing that lasts. Forgive while you can. Help when you can. Speak kindness before it's too late." They looked at me strangely, but I didn't care. The truth wasn't mine to keep, it was theirs to hear. And with that, I let the noise of the world fade into the steady rhythm of my breathing, holding the certainty that I had come back for this reason alone, to pass on the message and then